Thanks, Yasmin. I also commence by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also pay my respects to the elders of the other First Nations of this land. Can I acknowledge, of course, Her Excellency the Governor, my co-hosts, Minister Victor Dominello and Ahmed Keskin, the plethora of parliamentarians that are also here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to once again be able to welcome you to this place for this event. It's also a pleasure to once again to be able to congratulate Affinity Intercultural Foundation for the work that they've done, not just in relation to this event, but the other work that they do consistently during the year and have done for quite a number of years. When I come to this event and I speak here, I often talk about the nature of multicultural Australia, that this event in some ways symbolises lots of the good things that happen in this part of the world. That our cultural diversity is the essence of what it is to be a contemporary Australian. That people that don't understand that, don't understand who we are and how we got to be where we are. If we are anything in this country, we are the result of wave after wave of migration. And if we're as good a place as we think we are, that must inevitably be the result of the contributions of all of those waves. And that means allowing everyone the right to celebrate their religion, everyone having their own space to be able to do that. In passing, I should note that earlier this year I was in Jerusalem, Hebron, Gaza and some other places close to that. And if anything, and amongst the many other things that I drew from that was just how important it is to maintain those traditions of multiculturalism and those rights in this land. And those sorts of things that I usually say at these events are often said by other politicians. In fact, I don't think there's been an MP address this event that hasn't said things similar to that. And I often say we have to keep saying it because you can't assume those battles have been won. We thought they'd been won in the 1990s and look what happened. We took our foot off the accelerator and some of those commitments went a bit backwards. It's perhaps appropriate tonight, though, to just have a bit of a reality check because all of us politicians say these things, but on the other side of that door is the real world. And there are some people that will say these things, go through that door, promptly forget them, and say other things. It's perhaps a plea to politicians to remember that when you say things here, you should say them always. You should maintain that position. And one of the MPs who was at this event last year recently gave a speech where he basically said that unless you're part of the Judeo-Christian tradition and got a couple of hundred years of European civilisation behind you, you shouldn't be part of the institutions in this country. And that was nonsense and crazy, and I think it was probably a rush of blood to his head at the time. But it's a useful reminder that the things that we say in here should not just be words, they should be things that we continue to say and continue to believe and continue to argue for. That, I must say, has prompted me to think, well, what other things should we do to perhaps put a bit more rigour into some of our institutions? It seems to me one of the things we might want to do is consider changing our state constitution so there's a provision in that to guarantee everyone's right to celebrate their religion. That will no doubt come as a shock to people that we've actually got a state constitution, but we do, and maybe that's one thing that we should look at. We should also, in a similar vein perhaps, be looking at making it illegal to discriminate against someone on the basis of their religion. I'm happy to concede some of those will be complex and difficult issues to negotiate through, but I think it's perhaps appropriate that we start having a conversation about those things. Because if we don't actually do things to live up to the rhetoric that we go on with, then you've got to wonder what the point of the exercise is. Because there is a real world out there outside that door, and we need to think about ways that we can institutionalise the things that we also believe in when we get up and speak at these dinners. Having said that, I might perhaps conclude my remarks there, except to once again congratulate Affinity for all the extraordinarily good work that they do. They are a credit to Sydney and a credit to the organisation that they organise.